Three, two, one, and we're live. What's up, everybody? It's Tyler with Hooksets are free. Good evening to you. It is Thursday night, February the 8th, 2024, and we are live. This is the first time in a long time that I have gone live on YouTube directly and not through StreamYard. So we will see how it goes tonight. I am not totally sure. Hopefully, I can see the chat. So if you're in here, please do leave a comment. Let me know that you're in here. I will interact with you guys. But because I'm not on StreamYard, I will not be able to post your comments on the front of this screen, down below like would be normal. However, because I'm streaming direct through YouTube, the quality of the video should be better, should be in 1080p as opposed to 720, which the free version of StreamYard is all that you can get. So I've got two people in here right now. Don't see any comments so far, but I'm going to give you guys just a couple of moments to see who might want to join in tonight. I do have a package from Tackle Warehouse that I got in the mail today. Placed it over the weekend. So got here in reasonable time. And I am super excited to show you guys what I picked up. I think it's all new to me. And I think most of it is new for this year. All stuff that came out either last year and is recently available, or came out this year or in the last couple of months. So should be fun. Also, don't know why that's firing up right now. Should go quiet in a moment or two. Plus, I don't know how well you guys can hear it. But, guys, dry January is over. And I've got a hell of a bourbon to crack open and share with you guys this evening. This is the Maker's Mark Cask Strength, which I don't know if I've actually had this one in particular before. And obviously, there's really, I don't know that there's a golden barrel or batch to be had. So this being batch 2304 doesn't mean much to me, but the fact that it is 112 proof and Maker's Mark does, I am almost certain that I will enjoy it. So Carol Ferg in the house tonight. How you doing, Carol? Hope you are having a great night. Good to see you in here. Thank you for participating in the chat. So as is typical with all Maker's Mark, they've got it wax sealed around the top. So I'm going to crack this the proper way. Peel that puppy off and hopefully get this tape off of my finger. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Carol. Glad to hear that you are doing well. So not sure if you guys would notice, but it's been a while since I've done a Tackle Warehouse unboxing. In the last year or so, I've probably only made a couple of purchases total from Tackle Warehouse. It used to be that I would kind of shop evenly between Tackle Warehouse, the hookup tackle, and discount tackle. But as I've accumulated so much gear and not lost nearly as much as I've bought, I have started to slow the number of purchases that I'm making. And hopefully I can stay disciplined in that regard. I just have so much stuff that I've acquired and not used that I need to really get a feel for what I have, what I want to use. But as is typical for all of us, I'm a gear junkie. I'm a tackle junkie. I really like to see and hold and try new things. And so when something brand new comes out, I am super curious and can't help myself. I want to be able to see it. I want to be able to envision a scenario where I will use it. Want to know how it will compare to other things that I have used and do like. And that's part of what inspired this YouTube channel. So that will always be a part of the equation. But hopefully I can keep that addiction in check a little bit when it comes to the wallet. That smells delicious. Super, super strong. But sweet as you would expect with the Maker's Mark. You get a lot of cherry and vanilla on the nose and on the palate with this one. Just quite a bit more heavy oak on the back end than what you'd get out of a standard Maker's Mark that is more of a 90 proof bourbon. So I actually quite like this. I knew that I would, but I guess I didn't quite know what to expect in terms of flavor profile. It's a little bit brighter than I would have expected or had in mind. It's got kind of a high flavor profile on the front end of it, but it's delicious. It does hit hard on the back end, but that's to be expected for 112 proof. We've only got 5 people in here right now. 3 thumbs up. I do appreciate you guys hitting that thumbs up button for me. Who knows how many more people we will get in here. Colby Livingston in the house. What's up, dude? Howdy to you as well. Hope you're having a great evening. Hope you're excited to see some of these new baits, some of which maybe you've seen before, some of which maybe not. And so I intentionally did this through YouTube Studio so that we could get a high quality video picture so that you guys can see this stuff up close, personal, and in detail. I spent just shy of $100 plus tax, so it came out to $103 on this order, and it is mostly soft plastic swim baits. So let's start with one that is perhaps the newest and one of the more interesting baits on the market right now. Perhaps controversial in some regards, but what have you guys heard about the new Bass Mafia loaded swim bait? I don't know that it actually says, oh, it does say loaded. So they specify that this is the loaded 6, but at this point in time, I believe this is the only size that is available. But given that they made the original dangerous swim bait in both a 6 and a 7, I would imagine that they will at least do that with the loaded version. So when I bought the original dangerous swim baits, I got them in the 7-inch size. So that is a big part of what appealed to me about this swim bait, is that it's a different size and a little bit of a different design or consistency than what you get with the Mag Draft Freestyle. So I am going to keep this out so that we can just see the difference of what we're working with from a size perspective and a consistency of the plastic. But this 7-inch freestyle or 7-inch dangerous swim bait is somewhat substantially bigger than the 6-inch Mag Draft Freestyle. But because it was designed by Chris Zaldain, you do get a pretty similar consistency of plastic on this guy. So you're going to get, it's probably going to swim about at the same speed. Now, that said, the tail is bigger and shaped different, so it might kick harder. I have not fished this bait yet. I just got my hands on it a few months back, and we've been frozen here in Colorado for now 2+ months. But this original guy comes 2 to a pack, whether you get the 6 or the 7-inch. Does have an open belly slot, comes unrigged, and is meant to be fished on an owner beast hook or a flashy swimmer or something of the sort to fish weedless. Of course, you can fish it on an exposed jig head as well. But that is where this bait comes into play and is the loaded swim bait. So This comes pre-rigged, kind of similar to a mag draft, really only in the regard that it is pre-rigged, but it's pre-rigged in a totally different way. Gators Adventures, what's up, dude? Hope you're having a good night. Thanks for joining in. And this is stapled very well. Okay. So I will say I got 2 of these for one specific purpose. I got them in the same color, but it's not the same exact bait. This one is the shallow and weighs 1.6 ounces. And this one is the deep and weighs 1.8 ounces. So there is more weight in the harness of this bait, and therefore it is meant to fish a little bit deeper in the column. As you can see, this is pre-rigged, does not have a line tie, but does have an exposed hook on top. So there is a harness in the belly of this bait. You can see the weight is pretty evenly distributed. It's more of just a longer, flatter piece of metal, which is cool. It attaches to the harness and the hook. It keeps it firmly in place there. However, this is a line through. So you'll see a hole in the nose of the bait. What you do is you take this hook out of the bait. Tie your line here after threading the line through the bait. So this is a line through swim bait. You run your line through the nose. It will come out here. Then you tie on your hook, and then you set the hook back into the bait, and it has a channel, a slot where you slide this all the way up. It goes almost all the way up into the nose of the bait. And question is, does it click into place or does it? Not exactly sure how that stays in place. It felt like it was pretty secure in there when I first pulled it out. So this is the first time that I've ever gotten my hands on this. I don't know for sure right this minute, but you'll probably be able to see as I slide it up there that the nose of that hook goes all the way up into the nose of the bait. And it looks like this when it's rigged, but then as a fish bites and you set the hook, that hook comes out and your bait is on the line, and all you're doing is fighting the fish on this hook right here. So looks like a pretty solid hook, although you could probably change it out for something else if you chose to do so. I'm sure you could also use a treble hook or something of the sort, but I plan to fish it as is to start out with and see what the action is like. Um, there is not another bait on the market like this right now that is a line through top hook swim bait. So for that, I applaud Chris Zaldane, Bass Mafia, the Guggen Squad, whoever you want to say was involved in that. But I am curious to see, one, how the action is on it, how the hookup ratio compares, the weedlessness of it, since it does have a top single hook as opposed to a bottom treble hook that you get with the mag draft. I have a bunch of mag drafts, but where in the heck are they right now? Is a good question. So here's a traditional mag draft that just has a treble hook with a magnet on the bottom. Does have a hook slot so that if you want to put 1 point in and have the 2 out, you certainly can do that. And that is how I prefer to fish it. However, with that hook being on the bottom of the bait and you swimming this through the middle of the water column, if you run into structure, you are somewhat at risk or even likely to get hung on that cover. So um, that is really one of the main downsides to the mag draft that I do see this dangerous swim bait potentially doing better at. Plus the fact that it is a top hook, just one hook point, and there are less ways for you to lose fish on it than say with the mag draft. So if the action is as good or close to it, or a little bit different and in some ways better, um, then I am excited about that. I don't know how the bigger tail is going to play out, but the consistency of the plastic, like I mentioned, is very similar and different than say what you'd get in the coal shad, which we may or may not look at shortly here. Um, so anyway, got two of the new dangerous loaded swim baits, and I'm pretty excited about them. As I said, it's a new concept that I'm kind of surprised that other companies have not done yet. So I will be curious to see how it performs and also how it sells. Um, I don't know if it's going to be a super popular thing and blow up out of nowhere because it's a relatively novel idea, or if people are going to resist and perhaps not like it. I don't know. The jury is out on that one, so we will see. But chicken fried steak in the house. What's up, dude? Howdy, fish and peeps and peepettes, he says. Gator said, I could not get the line to go through. Messed the bait up trying. Interesting. I suppose I could have tried doing that. I don't know where I've got line. I do see a spool of line there, but I already put the bait back. Maybe we'll do that after I finish the unboxing, just for the sake of it, see how it threads for me in threading the line through the bait, if that's a common issue or what. What size line were you using? I would imagine you have to use proper line that is north of 15 pounds in test, whether it's fluorocarbon or mono, but probably not braid. And it's got to be probably pretty heavy diameter in order to get through there and not get kinked up or anything like that. But I wonder if perhaps the way that they poured it made it difficult for you to actually thread the line through, or what. I don't know. That's curious. The big eye helps hold it in place, says Gators Adventures. Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on from the dangerous swim baits. These are $15 a piece, so right in line with same price as the mag draft, depending on where you get them. The mag draft has gone up in price a little bit at some places. So either way, this is right about the same price as what you pay for a 6-inch mag draft. But again, different concept, which I am excited about. So let's move on to another similarly sized swim bait, newer to the market. And this is the 6 Sense Whale 6.0. So I did get 3 packs of these, 3 different colors. These come 3 to a pack. I might end up giving one of these away at some point, but I thought I would get 3 different shad patterns that all have slightly different color variations, a little bit more flash. But I think it's a good deal for what you get. So, this is really meant to compete with like a mag draft freestyle or something of the sort. The Whale is a swim bait that has sold really well and performed well. I quite like it. Do I have any up on this wall or not? Um, Perhaps not, but I do have a few packs of them, and I really do like them. I think I've only got them in the 4.5-inch size, but they do now make them in a handful of different sizes. And once they decided to come out with a 6-inch, I knew I'd have to try it. The action on this bait is very cool, and I think almost right away puts it ahead of a Kitech or a Spark Shad or something else that competes in the same category. It does have a great combination of tail kick and head wag that is hard to produce. And so to have this bait in a 6-inch profile now is wicked. Um, it's designed really well. It's a beautiful looking swim bait. It's got a lot of detail in the head with the eye, the gill plate, the fins that are there for some stabilization. It's got that open belly slot. It's got a firm enough soft plastic that it is relatively durable, and you should be able to catch multiple fish on the same bait, if not perhaps upwards of 10 or more fish, especially if you were using something like Mend It. Um, Really, the place in the bait that is going to wear out more than anything is the top where your hook comes out, and then whether or not you decide to expose the bait, that is where the bait will wear out. So, um, not so much the nose, especially if you're using a screw lock. I am tempted to rig one of these up, but I don't know if I have the right hook handy and close by. I suppose I could unrig this Mag Draft Freestyle and show you guys. So here is the Mag Draft Freestyle on a Trocar. I believe this is a 5/0. This is a Magnum swim bait hook with a blade on it. I forget exactly what they call it, but that is a Trocar hook. As you'll see, the Mag Draft does it too. Um, at a certain point, you do need to put like a toothpick or a nail weight or something through the side of the bait where this hook comes through to prevent it from sliding up and down as much. You can prevent that by poking a hole there and making it so that this will not slide except when you set the hook. So either that or Mend It will do the job. But let's go ahead and unrig this Mag Draft for a second. I'll show you the two baits side by side and then rig up this 6.0 whale. So side by side from a profile standpoint, these guys are pretty dang similar. The whale is a little bit fatter than the Mag Draft on top. The tail is pretty similar, although the one on the Mag Draft is a little smaller than the whale. And again, it has that kind of inverted shape as what you'd get out of the Mag Draft. So we've seen that on a few baits. Um, and then the underside is pretty similar as well, where you get the fins sticking out for a little bit of stabilization and realism. Main difference is that you do not get this top hook slot that's on the Mag Draft. You do not get that on the whale, but in my opinion, that's not a huge deal. Plays a small role, but sometimes an important one. So let's go ahead and rig this puppy up. The one downside to these Trocar hooks is the screw lock itself, which is not an owner centering pin and sometimes does not want to cooperate as you would hope. So sometimes it does not go in perfectly straight, or should I say center, which is the whole point of the owner centering pin is it keeps it centered. So that is a pretty decent job of screwing that in. Should not have to do it twice. We'll go ahead and bring this out the back. Like so. And that is beautiful. Almost makes me think that this could be a 4/0 hook, although I'm pretty sure it's a 5/0. So that's how she looks. Doesn't look like there's a ton of clearance here, but if and when you set the hook, you do get a decent amount of clearance. The hookup ratio should be just fine on this. Um, I'm not terribly concerned about that. If you do want to rig it weedless, I think that's a good way to do it. Go ahead and hang this up right there for now. That color is one of my favorites that Six Sense makes in their soft plastic swim baits, or should I just say their soft plastics in general. And it is Ghost Ice Minnow. Okay. Ghost Ice Minnow is a winner for sure. Um, it is like an electric shad, but it's really just ghost minnow with that purple fleck in there, which I'm a huge fan of. I just fall in love with it when I see it. But the other two colors that I got are Clearwater Rose, which got to open this one for you too. I probably won't open the last one for you because you can kind of tell through the package what it is, but yeah, Caro, it is a honking big whale for sure. Gators, you think that the bait that you got is perhaps just that way, but perhaps not an issue all the way across the board when it comes to that dangerous swim bait? Well, we'll see after this unboxing. We'll give it a whirl with mine. So this is the Clearwater Rose, which has this copper back and this beautiful purpley pink shimmer belly. Um, Gorgeous color, and it reminds me of a megabass color that looks purple when you're looking at it in the light right now, but when you actually put it up to the light, it goes green. So I don't know if you guys would be able to see that unless I put a light under it myself. Um, which the only way I could perhaps do that is like that. I don't know if you can kind of see that. So it goes from purple to green with direct sunlight or light in it. But beautiful color. I'm going to leave one of these out of the package as well. And the last color that I got is what they call Pro Blue. So it is a very flashy color, very transparent, clear color. Um, but on the back, what you can't totally see right now is that there is some purple fleck mixed in with the blue and green on top of the bait. And so it's bordering. It has kind of a hint of electric shad, but it is a very flashy color. So got treble hook stuck on me. So 3 packs of the whale 6-inch. And to go with those, in addition to the beast hooks, a good way to rig the 6-inch whale is on the 6 cents treble head. So I got a pack of these in the half-ounce variety. And we're going to try just screwing one of these bad boys on to the 6-inch whale right now. See how it sits flush. If I had my scale down here, I would also weigh it for you right now before and after adding this half-ounce weight. I want to say that this bait by itself is a little bit lighter than the mag draft, but not by a substantial amount. So I would guess that this thing weighs close to an ounce weightless by itself. So we're adding another half-ounce of weight to the front of this thing. And if you're not familiar with the 6 cents treble head, it's literally a line through accessory that has a hole in the front. And so you run your line through there and up over the top of this head, tied onto a treble hook that then you place anywhere on the bait that you prefer. So let's go ahead and try and center this up. And I did not do a fantastic job with this. So I would redo this before fishing it. But this is roughly how it would or will look when rigged up. Does put a lot of weight in the front of the bait, so it's going to want to nose down, and then as you swim it, it will stay and swim low and slow in the column. This bait has a little bit more tail on it, can probably be fished at slower speeds than the mag draft and the dangerous swim bait. So that is one big reason that I'm excited about this bait. Is just it should be a little bit more versatile than what you get out of those other two baits. I haven't fished the dangerous swim bait yet, but I have fished the mag draft a lot, and I can tell you, if you don't already know, the mag draft, whether it's the freestyle or the original rigged version, is a very speed sensitive bait. So it's an absolute killer of a bait, but it does have a very particular speed that it wants to be run at, which I would call medium speed. Not quite medium fast. Some people might say so, but I don't think you could run it quite medium slow. It does want to have more of a dead action when you swim it too slow, and it will blow out and roll onto its side if you fish it too fast. So that's why I call it a speed sensitive bait. And so for me, I need to fish it in anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 feet of water um, in order to get it swimming just how I like it. And that's not always ideal. I mean, sure, there are other ways to rig it. You can throw nail weights in it, which I have done before. You can get it a little bit deeper by putting nail weights in the belly, um, actually, in a couple of different spots. But in general, the mag draft kind of wants to be swum at a certain speed and prefers to be at a particular depth. So that is why I got the whale. So try rigging it a couple of different ways and see how it compares. Now, that only leaves a handful of things left for us. So let's go ahead and dive into those. There are two new 6th Sense soft plastics on the market. One is a jig trailer slash Ned rig bait, one that I definitely like the look of. I will be curious to see how it comes into play for me. This right here is the Shindig 3.2. So this is a small bait, 3.2 inches, obviously. Seems like they package them pretty carefully, even though it's not in a clamshell. Doesn't bother me because I like how small the bag is that they come in. That is handy. But here is the little bait that we're looking at. So it definitely has the body of a Ned rig bait. Okay, almost reminds me of the missile baits Ned bomb, or even a little bit like the X Zone lures. Ned Zone, few other Ned baits that have this round and ribbed and tapered profile, but it has some craw legs on the bottom of it. And it actually also has these little subtle flanges or nubs on the bottom of those craw flappers. So what's interesting about this bait is it probably could be used in a handful of different ways. The most obvious ones to me are obviously as a Ned rig or as a jig trailer. I think it would make a wicked little micro jig trailer. Don't know if I have a small jig handy on me to thread this on and show you right this second. It could even make a good swim jig trailer, although that probably wouldn't be my preferred way to rig it. But I would say Ned rig or small jig. So here's a jig that probably needs to be trimmed down, but could work. This is one that I tied myself. This is a living rubber and marabou jig. And I wonder how easily we could thread on this bait as a trailer with that marabou. Um, I tied this thinking that the marabou would end up being, what does most of the work for this jig, but you never know. It could take a trailer and perform well. So let's go ahead and thread this on and just see how she looks. Size wise, that works really well. Um, I'm not mad about that. I do think that with the size of this bait, it probably is going to want to be on, a small to medium size jig, being 3.2 inches. If it were in the ballpark of 2.5 to 3 inches, it would probably be best suited for a micro jig. But being, 3.25 gives it a little bit more versatility in terms of what it can do and what it might even want to do. So um, that is what gets the wheels turning in my head a little bit. And not just on a jig or a Ned rig, but I think it would do fantastic on a drop shot. I don't know what the consistency is like yet of this soft plastic. This color here is called, I think, Candy Brownie. Yep. And your best bet in understanding what this color actually looks like in the light would be to go to Six Sense's website and see it is two-toned. Um, who knows? Maybe I could even do it for you again with the phone flashlight. You can kind of see it there. It is clear on bottom and brown on top, and has this flake all throughout it. That is a combination of purple and gold fleck. Um, it's a beautiful color, and I really like just the profile of it. So I think a drop shot, this thing could be fantastic on. I think a small chatterbait trailer, it could go well. Um, Small spinnerbait. Um, I had one other idea. Don't know why it's evading me at the moment. Um, but it was not far off from a drop shot. It was still a finesse technique. If it comes to me, I will let you know. But finesse football jig, finesse jig of most varieties, Ned rig, drop shot, I think are primarily how I plan to fish this. I also got one in a straight black, and I do have some finesse jigs that I've had for a while. Finesse football jigs that are living rubber skirts, as well as some others that I've tied myself that are black. I also do really well on black as a drop shot color. So the shindig definitely interests me. And then the other one, mm, maybe I misplaced one, dropped it. I don't know where it is, but I did get 3 packs of these. Um, One could have slid off the table. Who knows what? But this is the Six Sense Busa Ned 3.3. Obviously, before me even showing you, you can tell that this color is that same candy brownie, which I think is just a wicked color. Hellabass in the house. Time for Sleepy. Is that the first thing you said? You just pop in. Oh, long time no chat, fellow fellow tackle junkies. Yep, that is true. Rich, good to see you stopping in here. No problem that it's time for sleepy. I'm sure that's probably because I'm going finesse on you, and not because you're actually going to sleep. But we did talk about some swim baits already. Both the Bass Mafia loaded dangerous swim baits. I got one in each of the weights, the shallow and the deep. And I got 3 packs of the 6 Sense Whale 6.0. Showed them rigged on a half-ounce treble head, as well as weedless on a flashy swimmer type of setup. So you did miss some good stuff already. But yeah, thanks for stopping by, Rich. Hope you have a good sleep, my man. So the Busa Ned, I'm a sucker for Ned baits. I do throw the Ned rig a fair amount, and I find them to be versatile. I will throw them on a jig head, and I will throw them on a drop shot as well. So a couple things that make the Busa Ned interesting are the size. This again is that same 3.3-inch size. That Shindig was a 3.2, so a little bit bigger than what you'd see in an average Ned size bait. And you get this longer, subtle tapered tail. You can see that it's moving a ton on its own as I'm trying to keep it still. And it has this tiny little bulbous tip on here. So reminds me of a couple other baits. There is one from Savage Gear that has almost this exact same profile that I absolutely love. It's called the Dragon Tail Slug. And I am not mad that 6 Sense is now making this same bait. I will definitely give it a go. So I picked 3 packs up. This one is like a green pumpkin watermelon. They call it smoke green pumpkin. In fact, why don't we just do the same thing that I've been doing for you so that you can actually see what these colors are? Well, maybe I'm not going to be able to do it justice. So it has kind of this two-tone almost, where it's like green pumpkin on the outside and smoke through the inside. It's like hollowed out. So different and unique variation on green pumpkin that I think is really cool. Has some translucency to it. Should show up interesting in more lighted conditions. I got that brownie candy, which again is a two-tone, more natural crawfish, baitfish pattern that has brown and clear. And then I got one in black and blue, which I told you black is a killer for me. Black and blue is also super killer for me. So reminds you of a small Demiki stinger. Does it? 2 last things in this unboxing. One is one of my favorite finesse baits of perhaps all time, but really has jumped onto my radar a ton over the last couple of seasons. And this is the Ned Salamander from Savage Gear. Such an underrated bait. If you guys don't fish this bait and you like to fish the spawn, whether you fish a drop shot or not, you need to start and you need to do it with this bait. This is a color that I hadn't had previously, but I needed to restock on this anyway. This is the mud bug color, so a bit more natural than some of the other ones that I typically throw in bed fishing. Chartreuse, pink, white, black, and blue. But this bait right here is so underrated. It has a ton of action on it. It has this tapered section halfway through the body. It does have these legs hanging off the side. So it has a very natural profile to it that does look like a salamander. A lot of little details on it, including the neck area on it. And it's made from TPE, or what Savage Gear calls Duratech. And it also is impregnated with some scent that I find to be Um, Pretty attractive. I don't mind the smell myself, and fish certainly don't either. So I've had more success on this bait than perhaps any other soft plastic bait in the last 2 or 3 years. It has been this one and the Strike King Baby Z2 that have led the way by a long shot for me. Um, can't say enough good things about it. If you don't actually fish it, you need to. Last thing in this unboxing, Rich, I know you're still in here. You say actually done this time. No, you're not. Last one is the OSP Spin Nuts. Spin Nuts. Spin Nuts. 80. So I held off on buying the Spin Nuts for a while because when they first released it here in the US, it was only in a 50 size. But I knew in Japan that they had it in multiple sizes. So I think now they've got it in a 50, either a 60 or 65, and then an 80. So this is the 80 size, which to me is the most appealing size, perhaps not even big enough. I do prefer both the 3.5 and the 4-inch versions of the Depths cover scat. And so this is essentially that same size right in between. It's more of a 3.5-inch size than a 4. 4 would be 100 millimeters, but this bait is different than your average poo style bait. So it looks pretty similar, right, in terms of profile, but it has a few things going for it that are different. So I like the fact that it's got a couple of hook slots on bottom. Actually, it's maybe just one hook slot that runs like the entire length of the body on the underside. But sure, it has that same tapered profile as a cover scat, but it has a flat top with all of these slots for your hook to come out depending on the size of hook that you're using. And then it has this very unique head shape. Um, and it even has you know, a guide for where you're supposed to start rigging the bait. But if you'll notice that because this is a pointed shape and it's kind of like a hull, flat on top, rounded on bottom, and it's narrower in the front than it is in the back, it carries a lot of weight in the back. This thing is actually a subsurface walking bait. Most poo baits are meant to use like a Senko that have a little bit more action when you're working it on the bottom, but you rig it weedless and weightless because these are dense, super heavy in terms of salt content. You rig them weightless and weedless, and you just let it fall. It will kind of shimmy and work its way down. Won't have a Senko style flapping action, but this will kind of wiggle its way down to the bottom, and then you twitch it. Cover scat and other similar style baits will kind of twitch like a fluke would just off the bottom. It's meant to be fished super slow. You just kind of dead stick it and then twitch it and dead stick it. This bait, on the other hand, is meant to be an an underwater walking bait. So throw this out. You could fish it just like you would with a cover scat and let it sit on bottom, dead stick it, and perhaps get bites the same way. But really, it's meant to have another action that is when you twitch it, this thing will walk on itself underwater. So that alone caught my attention. However, the 50 size is just so dang small. To use a 2-inch or even a 3-inch bait um, in this category didn't appeal to me all that much. They get bit and they get bit well, but by a lot of small fish. And I am not super into that. So I waited until the 80 size came out and it is now available. This color is wicked. It's kind of like a black and blue mixed with green pumpkin. Um, I don't even know what they call it. Gory miso something. Um, I know it was on my order slip. Gory miso black. Okay. So they are not cheap because it's OSP. You get 5 to a pack and they're $11.39. So it kind of hurts a little bit. But if it has the right action and it will do something different than what the cover scat and other competitor baits will do, then I am in, because I will say I got converted to being a cover scat user pretty quickly after being very hesitant for the longest time. And I got it in all three sizes to start out with, and I used all three sizes. I found that I don't know if it's a 2.8 or a 3 inch, got bit really well, but by small fish almost exclusively. The 3.5 inch size really bridged that gap. I caught a wide variety of fish, um, both big and small. And the 4 inch, I immediately started catching bigger fish, and it weeded out a lot of the smaller fish. I caught fewer fish on it, um, as would be expected, but I caught many more good fish, and it really surprised me at how well it caught fish. Probably falls right into that same category as the Geek Crack Bellows Gill. Has just been very pleasantly surprising in terms of it looking like a bait that I don't really know what it's supposed to do. I don't know why they would like it. It's weird. It's expensive. I'm not a fan of those things. But once you rig it up and fish it, it gets bit really well. So I'm curious about the spin nuts, but dude, Tim, I don't know where the name spin nuts came from, or if that's a translation from something in Japanese. I don't know, but doesn't make a lot of sense. Spin nuts. I don't know. Um, Frank, you missed a fair amount, dude, but I'll just run you through it because I only got like 10 different things. Some were duplicates. Okay. So I got 2 of the loaded dangerous swim baits from Bass Mafia. Chris Zaldane developed these. This is a line through top hook swim bait. Doesn't really exist, especially on the mainstream market. So pretty cool that they're doing that, especially in 2 weights. So one's a shallow, one's a deep, 1.6 versus 1.8 ounces. One's more for the top middle of the water column. One is more for the middle or even a little bit lower if that's what you want to do. 3 packs of the new Whale 6.0 from 6 cents. Wicked swim bait. The Whale is a great swim bait. Has only been available in up to a 4.5 inch size until now. And I have quite liked it. But now that they've got a 6 inch out and they're selling them 3 to a pack for $10, I got 3 packs, dude. So right there, you got $60 in swim baits. And then I branched out and tried some other soft plastics, mostly that I've never tried before. Okay. So I don't know how much of these you just saw when you jumped in, but the Shindig from 6 cents, little hybrid bait, Ned rig / jig trailer that I think would also be an awesome drop shot bait, free rig bait, Carolina rig bait, trailer on a lot of different things, and also got 2 packs. Really, I got 3 packs. I just don't know where the third one is right this second, of the new Busa Ned 3.3. It's a tapered Ned bait, a little bit longer than average at 3.3 inches. Got it in some cool colors. It reminds me a lot of the Savage Gear Dragon Tail Slug Ned bait, which I am a big fan of, but not quite as much as I am a fan of this, which is the Ned Salamander. I've talked about this numerous times. Had to get another pack of them to get ready for this year, especially because I go through these a lot, even though they're made of a TPE Elastec style material. I catch a shit ton of fish on these, and I have so much confidence in it that I wanted to pick up another pack. I don't know that I already had this color. This is Mud Bug. I showed it up close, so if you want to go back and look at it, the color of it is pretty wicked. And then lastly was that Spin Nuts 80 from OSP. So right at $100 for this order, and I'm pumped about all of it. Tell me what you guys think. Good purchases, not good purchases. Um, I told you we were going to talk about the coal shad, but we're actually not. That's going to be on the next live stream because I have two of them coming in my order from Discount Tackle, which I placed just either last night or the night before. Uh, if you are interested in checking out the coal shad in the 6-inch or the 8-inch, which I picked up the 8-inch, so spoiler alert, you will see the 8-inch on my next unboxing, which will probably be Monday night. I'm going up to the mountains tomorrow, celebrate my birthday, and do some skiing for um, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and should be awesome. But I've got my discount tackle package coming. Hopefully, it'll be here by Monday. I did get one or two of the 8-inch coal shad, and I'm curious to see how it looks. I think it's almost going to have as much tail as, say, the Kitech in terms of just how soft it is. I was surprised when I opened the 6-inch coal shad, and I wanted to get some 8-inchers. So let me catch up to you guys. Tim, really, you think the spin nuts is a piece of shite? Um, Literally, or you've tried it and you don't like it? Tell me more. You're a big fan of the whale. You didn't know how that they had a 6-inch available. Well, it's brand new, dude. It's not like they talked about it or released it last year and it just became available. Um, there was very little talk about it, maybe for the month or so leading up to them releasing it, which was just like a month or two ago. And it is, I think, completely sold out on their website, but Tackle Warehouse has them in stock. So that is part of what motivated my purchase, in addition to wanting to take a look at and see how the loaded swim bait from Bass Mafia actually works. So, Tim, if you've never seen the Savage Gear Ned Salamander, you got to at least pick them up, dude. They're not expensive. They're $5 a pack. You get 5 in a pack, and they last a long time. You can catch 20 plus fish on them, but again, as they get hot out in the sun, or if you accidentally leave them in a pile of other baits, they will melt. But the material is fantastic. The design and the action, just how much action these things have on them, as well as the scent, is all surprisingly very, very good. Um, this is a sleeper bait that I don't really hear other people talking about. You hear a lot of people talk about the Strike King Z2 and Baby Z2, especially because it's been a tournament winning bait for, I don't know, the last handful of years. And KVD absolutely loves it, but a bunch of other pros use that Baby Z2. I've talked it up a ton, have used it probably more than any other bait as a drop shot bait for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And I use it all the time. I everywhere I go, I have these on me. Um, it was one of the original neutrally buoyant baits. It's very rare that you get that with a Laztec. I talk about this frequently, but Elaztec baits have no salt in them when the Z-Man makes them. 9 times out of 10, they have a couple of baits that do have salt in them, but the vast majority of their baits are saltless and therefore stand up, which is awesome for a Ned rig bait. This can be fished as a Ned rig, but the Streaks from Z-Man is a better Ned rig bait. But on a drop shot, the Streaks will do this. On a drop shot, this bait, which is a Strike King bait poured by Z-Man. Okay, so Z-Man makes the bait for Strike King, and there is salt in it. You can't see the salt now, but what I recommend to everybody who's going to fish this bait is that before you fish it, I don't want to get salt all over my laptop, so I'm not going to do it right over my laptop right now, but you just stretch it out a bit before you actually rig it up, and look what happens. It makes it look roughed up and it draws the salt out of the bait and it makes this thing neutrally buoyant. It will sit perfectly horizontal on a drop shot as you're nose hooking this thing. Um, this this bait right here is an absolute monster. Um, but so is that Savage Gear Ned Salamander. So if you don't fish it, you got to get on it. Can't say enough good things about it. Those are my two most productive and favorite drop shot baits in the last few years and technically of all time. I thought so, Tim. Um, the spin nuts is a piece of shit, literally. Um, yep, all the poo baits. And I've been curious to try some of the other ones, but if we're being honest, it's like falling in love with a Senko and then wanting to try all the other stick baits on the market. Um, I don't know just how different the Nori's Dom, whatever it's called, and the Spro Craw Nugget, and there's now probably 4 or 5 other poo style baits on the market, and the Cover Scat started it. Is the OG, still is perhaps the undisputed best selling bait in Japan, soft plastic or hard bait, and has been for a number of years straight. Um, Extremely proven and productive bait if you're willing to fish slow. It is a bottom fishing bait almost exclusively, but does get bit on the fall frequently. Um, awesome bait, but the spin nuts is made to look like that, can be fished that way, but has a second type of action where you can work the bait on a straight, not a straight retrieve, but on a twitching style retrieve where it will walk subsurface. And that is what really caught my eye and makes me want to use it, and why I waited for the bigger size to come out and purchased it once it was available. So, not that I need to explain myself to you guys, but Frank says, I'm watching from the beginning on 2 times playback speed. So you need to take at least 23 or 24 minutes before you say goodnight so I can catch up. All right. Well, I don't know how long ago it was that you said that, maybe 10 minutes ago or so. So be it. It's weird if you're not watching live right now. Um, Maybe by the time you get to this, you should just jump ahead. I don't know. Kind of weird, Frank, but thanks for watching, dude. Mm, don't skip over this. This Maker's Mark cask strength is quite lovely. $60 a bottle. I would say well worth it. I'd be curious to try, you know, uh, not not a blind tasting, but put this like side by side with, the Old Forester 1920, which I've drank a few times on this stream over the last handful of months. Some of the other like, mid-priced bourbons that I really like, not the budget friendly ones, but it hits hard and it's got a lot going for it. But I am out of the game. Dry January um, is making me feel like a rookie. All these smells are coming back, and I don't know how to identify them. But it definitely hits my palate like I want it to. And for 112 proof, it is strong, but it doesn't burn too bad. Um, I'd say it probably drinks more like somewhere between 100 and 105 proof, and so that's right up my alley. And I absolutely love it. I would recommend it. Maker's Mark cask strength. Caro says, I just can't picture throwing lumps of poo baits. LOL. Yeah, well, I couldn't either. I think I had bought them and held on to the cover scat for a while before I actually decide to go out and use it. And it's one of those baits, just like the bellows gill, where I had it for a while, didn't use it, and then finally took it out and used it, and immediately the light bulb went off. Um, and not necessarily from seeing the bait, but from seeing how productive it was. Um, I caught fish on it immediately. Um, not the second it hit the water, but on my very first time out using it, caught multiple fish, um, and consistently after that. So um, I just had to have it with me everywhere I went, and had to dial in what the right color was, and especially what the right size was. But it was kind of always tied on or in my arsenal from that point forward. And if you don't throw poo baits, you probably should try it. Unless you're stubborn, you don't like to try new things, and you want to just throw a Senko, you might have similar success on it. But um, the cover scat is a cool bait, especially when throwing it weedless and weightless. You can cast it a lot further than you could with a Senko, and you can fish it on a bait caster. And who doesn't like to throw a bait caster? Tim, thank you for wishing me a happy birthday. I really appreciate that, dude. Yeah, Tim, I have drank my fair share of makers too, but over the last handful of years, I've really made a point to try the different variations of Maker's Mark, and not just the traditional variations of the standard makers, the Maker's 46, and they've got like three or four very mainstream versions. The cast strength is not necessarily one of them, because it comes in specific batches. It is really a small batch version of Maker's Mark, where it's going to be a little bit different with every batch that you get. Um, and I like that. So there are, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 different makers that I've tried in the last year that have been in this similar price range or weight class, if you will, um, that are a heavier proofage. So 112 proof here, whereas the standard makers is 90 proof, and the 46 is literally 92 proof. So yeah, cask strength means they make less of it and it hits harder, and I'm a big fan. But it does still have that like underlying um typical maker's flavor profile in terms of being sweet and fruity, but not overbearing in either one of those senses. Maybe on the sweet side, but I kind of enjoy that. Makers just always has a ton of vanilla coming off of it, as well as cherry. But this is bright, and it also hits hard. So definitely like it. If you see the cast strength, you should try it. 112 proof is it's hot, but as I was saying, this drinks a little bit lower than its proofage. So I think it's not quite as hot as most 112s would be. Caro, thank you very much. Um, yeah, I'm pumped to be able to ski 3 days in a row. I think this year I've only skied like 3 or 4 days so far this season. So this will catch me up, to be kind of on pace for what I typically like to do. If I can get 10 days in a season at this stage in my life, having 3 young kids, being 2, 5, and 8, um, that's a pretty productive year for me right now. Starting next year, I'm hoping to really up my game and probably double that number, because my daughters are now they're starting to ski year round. There's an indoor ski place here in Denver. Uh, it's pretty wicked, actually. Um, they don't use real snow. They use a carpet, like a treadmill, and it simulates the real thing very well. Check this out. This is my 8-year-old. Um, trying the indoor skiing for the first time this past week. So it's like a treadmill that they have carpet, they put salt and water on it. It takes a few lessons to really get used to the material. You kind of have to relearn to ski being on this, but once you get used to it, um, it translates over onto real snow remarkably well. Um, Not necessarily vice versa. You could be an expert skier on the mountain and then go here and look like a noob. You kind of have to relearn on this material. But once you actually get the hang of it, this will get you in shape faster. You'll learn more about yourself and really up your game, and then can go to the mountain, and that'll translate. So my girls are going to step up their game, and by next year should be eligible to do a weekly ski school program on the mountain, where we'll be up there every weekend, either Saturdays or Sundays, and that should be a good time. So that means I will ski at least once a weekend for at least those 10 weeks that we're up there. Plus then the other times that we go up for fun and otherwise. So going up and skiing Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then we'll be up there again in um, twice between now and spring break. So going up like every other weekend for the next month and a half. So I should get another 8 days in, um, and probably have the most productive ski season I've had since moving back here 7 years ago. So excited about that. Thank you very much for the well wishes, Caro. I love skiing almost as much as I love fishing, um, but I have to miss it longer than I have to miss fishing um, during the off season. Right? If you think about it, ski season ends in April, doesn't open until end of November. So fishing season is longer, um, but I get a similar vibe, similar feel of being able to tune out and be one with nature and in the moment of that activity, whether it's physical exercise or just being out in nature and being focused on the task at hand. It is something that allows me to check out of reality and be in the moment, um, in a beautiful scenario, but also where I'm learning and growing and experiencing things, sometimes with people that I love, sometimes by myself. Either way, it recharges my batteries, and I love it. So the fact that I get to ski when I don't get to fish fills my cup. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, guys? Maybe you don't. Maybe you, like Caro, you get to fish year round. Um, you're scared of it being cold every now and again, a couple times during the winter. We've had a few times where it's been well below zero. We had one storm in January where it was like 10 below for 3 days straight. Was absolutely brutal. My dad and brother were in Canada skiing that week, and it was like 35 below zero. It was too cold for them to even get out and go skiing. They had shut down skiing operations for the day. So, um, yeah, if you don't know about skiing and living in the West or any of that, don't complain about, occasionally having 20 or 30-degree weather. That ain't nothing. Um, like it's 31 degrees right now. It's going to reach a low of 23 tonight, and that's pretty easy going. But we are supposed to get anywhere from 4 to 12 inches of snow tomorrow. I am hoping that the mountains will get a similar amount of snow that we will down here in the Denver metro area tomorrow. I'm hoping to get good snow on my birthday, but we'll see. Caro, you're right. My daughter Brooklyn was really enjoying that. Both of them, um, after getting to do the indoor skiing, were just smiling ear to ear. We're begging for us to go back the very next day. We did that on Tuesday night, and so that made me, as a dad, super happy and proud, and very willing to go back on roughly a weekly basis for the remainder of this year until next ski season starts, and hopefully they are good enough to be able to jump right in with an instructor and a group of other kids where then they can just rip all over the mountain skiing blues and blacks all day long from 8:30 to 3:30 um, in ski school, or at Vale they call it devos. So my niece, who is a third grader, 9 years old, has been doing it. This is her third season doing it, and the way that she got in shape and good enough was by doing the exact same thing. um, I think 4 years ago, which sounds crazy given that it was in the height of COVID, but yeah. Tim says, I've only been skiing twice in my life. Had a blast both times, but definitely not a pro. I hear you. Skiing is super fun. Everyone's got different abilities. It's all about the attitude, the vibes, the people that you're with, all of that. So I equally enjoy skiing by myself as I do with other people. Um, Whether they are my ability level or not doesn't quite matter. I've matured a lot in that regard, where for a while, especially in my young 20s, like I spent a year doing the ski bum thing, lived in the mountains and skied 100 days in a season. Um, I was a bit more impatient at that time, you know, felt like time is money and I'm not here to dilly dally on the mountain. I'm trying to continue upping my game and pushing myself. I only want to do hard stuff. I operate at one speed, and you either keep up or you don't. I've settled down a little bit, and I still rip when I'm with people who want to do that, um, and I do when I'm by myself. But if I'm with other people, um, I am more than willing to ski at the pace that they'd like to, and contribute advice if they want it, and all of that. So I just love being out there. It's kind of the same with fishing, right? It all depends on who you're with, where you're going, how much time you have. That dictates kind of what the pace will be and the intensity of the fishing. Kara's not a fan of the cold. You're scared of breaking your butt or worse. That's funny. Well, you're right about that chicken fried steak. If it gets close to 32 degrees, farmers freak out. That's true. Then that's totally fair. Here, farmers have to accept the fact that come November, really October, um, frost is an issue. Crops are done for. Uh, you got to move on to other stuff. So it's a different ball game. But yeah, I can't imagine farming year round, and then having to deal with weather. Um, no matter what it is, it could be frost and freezing temperatures in the winter, or it could be uh, crazy wet and humid and hot in the summer, or vice versa. It could be super arid and hot. But just that the weather affecting your crops plays a huge role. That's just how farming goes. Oh, Tim. Yeah, no, that's another world in Wisconsin, because when you're up there and you've got humidity in addition to cold, um, that's a different type of cold. Here it is super super dry. We have very little humidity here, and so the cold doesn't seem that brutal. Plus, we get a ton of sun here in Colorado, and so we get warm temperatures on a somewhat regular basis. So I think this week we had 2 or 3 days that were north of 50 degrees as the high. Of course, it gets cold at nighttime. We're back down into the 20s at night. Um, but then we'll reach highs in the 50s or sometimes cresting 60 degrees. I think last week we had 2 days in the 60s. Um, and that will happen, but then sometimes we'll get a week or two straight of, you know, sub 20 degrees as the high and zero or negatives as the low, or like we experienced in January, highs that are below zero. Um, so we get a wide variety, but we do get warm days during the winter. It's not like it's just straight cold all the time. And even when it's cold, it doesn't feel as bad as it would if there was humidity in the air and it's that wet cold that is brutal. So the other benefit of it is that here in Colorado, because of the lack of humidity, when it snows, it's light and powdery. It's beautiful. Um, it's really nice to ski on. So Tim grew up skiing on the water. First time you went snow skiing, you thought you were going to own it, but you were wrong. I hear you, dude. Jim, you hold the record for the amount of water removed from a knee at Breckenridge. Oh no, that is rough, dude. Breckenridge is where I grew up skiing. Just like I told you, my daughters and my son eventually are going to do Vail Devos. I grew up doing the Breckenridge Bombers program starting when I was 4 years old. That's their ski school program. And Breckenridge is actually where I did my ski bum year in 2010, 2011. Um, I have a very soft spot for Breckenridge. Absolutely love it there. It's a totally different mountain than it was when I grew up. When I grew up, there was just three peaks. Now there's five. Um, a little bit wider variety of terrain there, but I still know the whole place like the back of my hand. And or should I say the front of my hand? There's no backside at Breckenridge. Vale is a completely different beast, having all the back bowls and about two times as much terrain as any other mountain here in Colorado. It's the only other mountain that really competes with it in North America um, is Whistler, but it's Whistler and Blackcomb, which are technically two separate resorts combined, add up to be about the same as Vail here in Colorado. So you guys are learning more about skiing than you ever wanted to. Somehow we've retained all 13 of you guys in here tonight. Um, what else do you guys want to talk about? We've been in here an hour and 23 minutes. I'm happy to revert back to fishing talk about any specific baits that you guys have questions or comments about. Because, I like to keep tabs on everything going on, um, at least in the mainstream, if not also on the fringes. And, I did notice that both Dustin Connell and Scott Martin won last week, had big tournament wins, and which is super exciting for both of them. But what do you guys want to talk about? Oh, Jim, I was born 36 years ago. So, yeah, it was probably roughly the same at Breckenridge when you were there as when I grew up. But it has evolved a lot since then. They've added, a half a dozen chairlifts as well as two peaks to the mountain. As you look up at Breckenridge, there's just one. It's the front side of the mountain. That's all that there is. And it goes peak 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. 7 and 6 are newer in the last 15 or 20 years. Um, 6 is newer than 7, but a lot of new terrain there. Tim says, DC, Dustin Connell. Yeah. Caro says, ha, on the Bandito bug. Woo. Yeah, no doubt. Bandito bug got her done, huh? I mean, who doesn't love a good Bandito bug? Right? I mean, it's really Guggen haters that don't. Um, but yo, should we talk about that for a hot second? Ooh, dang. Got that huckleberry? Or did this just convert? Oh, dang. How cool is that? Okay. Regardless, a lot of people would say that the OG was the striking rage bug, and I would agree, right? Striking rage bug has been out a long time, is still an absolute killer bait. If you don't throw the rage bug, you're missing out. Awesome Texas rig bait, awesome um, wobblehead bait, awesome jig trailer, swim jig trailer, chatterbait trailer, punching bait, whatever you want to do with this thing. It's fantastic. It is thin, flat, and has just the right amount of kick where it has a lot of kick, but it is not nearly as aggressive as the Rage Craw, which has that wide, flappy kick. This has that inline kick that's not quite as tight as what you get out of the Rage Menace grub because you get these thinner kickers that are a little bit longer. The Rage Bug is the perfect middle ground style bait that you can do just about anything with. Um, and the Bandito bug is mostly the same thing. Okay. Same size, same profile, same action, even down to the appendages. You get those two little antenna in between the kickers. You do get one extra set of antenna or appendages on the side, but it's also a flat bait that is thin. Um, has a different scent to it that's a little bit more black licorice anise than what you get in that deliciousness that is all of the rage baits. I love the scent of rage tail baits, but these two baits are extremely similar. There's no doubt that the bandito bug gets bit. It is a great bait. I like it, but because they're so similar, because the bandito bug had to license the patent of these flanges from Steve Parks and Rage Tail in order to make the original Bandito bug. Um, and then eventually went around him and figured out a way to make their own without paying him. Uh, just chaps my ass a little bit, but the Rage Bug for me was the OG. Um, I don't know that I should say the OG, right? Because we've got the Zoom Z Craw. And you know what's cool is I have two colors of Zoom Z Cross sitting here. I've got the watermelon red and I've got the black light, which are two of my favorite colors. Now, this is a problem with Zoom baits in general, is that the way that they're stored in their bags, they get twisted, you get wonky action out of them, and you'll have baits that are unusable, and that sucks. But when you store them together, look what happens here. We've got a hybrid color that's almost like a grass candy type of color. But this is watermelon red that has a hint of purple on it. And then this is like a true middle ground. It almost looks like Zoom's color called Huckleberry. But again, you can tell that it's got just that red flake. It's the watermelon red, but it's been sitting on these black light baits and is now purple. That's freaking wicked. Um, I like that. So, Rage Bug is great. Bandito Bug is great. All the credit to Scott Martin for not only winning on the Bandito Bug, but winning on Lake Okeechobee, which is his backyard where he grew up, and smoking the field. So he did awesome, and Dustin Connell smoked the field as well. Like even that much more than Scott did, but Dominant wins. They both did awesome. Excited for them. Dare I say proud of them? That sounds weird and a little patronizing, but super cool. Oh, Frank, less than 4 minutes till you catch up. I love that. Maybe you're watching 8 minutes ago or 4 minutes ago. You're watching on double speed. Maybe that's 6 minutes ago. Um, and you don't know I'm saying this, but you're commenting, letting us know that you're about to catch up. That's awesome. So you're watching what we were talking about. You're not skipping ahead, even though I told you to earlier, and we've been off topic a lot. You're now probably at the point where we're talking about that goodness that is the rage bug and the bandito bug. Catch on up, dude. Caro says, OMG, hubby has a work call at almost midnight. What the heck? Grr. Um, that's insane. What in the world? He just got a work call right now and he picked it up? Uh, why? What's he doing? Tim, I don't whatever, dude. I don't care who says what about where the bandito bug came from, but let's be honest. Um, the bandito bug came from the rage bug, and the Googans got lucky that one or two of their profiles. I don't even know if I should say profiles. Let's just say baits um, panned out, right? And sure, they would have sold a bunch of baits no matter what because of the social media influence that they have. Uh, but in terms of how the baits perform, they got lucky that one or two or three of them are actually good baits. I would say that the bandito bug is the best one. I would say that the rattle and Ned is probably the second best one. Although now that Z-Man has that rattle insert tool and there are other more buoyant baits that you can put rattles into, like the Yum Ned Dinger comes with a hollow tip so that you can put a rattle into it. Um, whatever. Let's just say the Guggen Rattle and Ned was an innovative bait, is a good bait. Um, and then perhaps the Kraken Craw, right? Um, but then again, there's a million similar and good craw baits on the market. Again, versatile. Jig trailer mostly. Texas rig bait perhaps as a second best application. Then maybe a swim jig trailer, but I still prefer that flatter bug style profile. Whether I'm pitching, flipping, or throwing it as a trailer, I prefer that flat profile. Um, yeah, Guggen got kind of lucky. And I would not say that Scott Martin or any of the Googans designed the Bandito bug. They just saw an opportunity in the market. They saw how productive the Rage bug was and how popular it was, and saw that there weren't that many baits on the market that were imitating that exact same action. And they thought, okay, we can make something almost exactly the same, but sell it with our name on it, and we'll sell a ton of it. How do we go about this the right way? Well, let's talk to Steve Parks. Let's license it. Let's, you know, do what we got to do to get the bait out there and sell as many of them as we can. And it worked, right? And now there are a bunch of other baits on the market that do the exact same thing. So, I'd say Reaction Innovations with the Spicy Beaver was one of the next ones to come out with it. Missile baits and bunch of other manufacturers now have that same flange, and it's not a novel thing anymore whatsoever. However, the Rage Bug still is king. So good on Scott Martin for winning on the Bandito bug and probably selling more Bandito bugs, but he's an owner in that company, not a designer of that bait. But okie doke. Caro, his day starts at 5 a.m. and he's getting work calls at midnight. That's not cool. Wait a sec. Your husband was asleep and some dude was calling and texting him nonstop at midnight? That's messed up. That is not cool at all. Um, I would turn the phone off, or I would text the guy back and say, "This is inappropriate. I will call you tomorrow. Please don't do this again." Um, you got to set some boundaries at a certain point. That is messed up, yo. No, don't say that's IT for you. Um, that's messed up. Were you saying IT or it? That's it for you, or that's IT for you? Because honestly, who's working at midnight and is desperate for IT support and needs it right this minute? Why can't they call it a night and know that it'll be just fine tomorrow? Um, that's freaking messed up, yo. Some dude in India is a loser. I don't care. Uh, turn that phone off. You can't tolerate that stuff. That is woof. So you know what's funny is I was talking earlier tonight about how the dangerous swim bait is really an innovative concept that nobody else has come out with or is doing, and therefore is probably going to sell a lot of this year. Um, and that I'm really curious to get my hands on. But what about this bait that I opened last month? Picked up two sizes of it, the 4.5 and the 6 inch. Um, what about the Z-Man Molotron? That that bridges the gap between that and a Huddleston. So they take the wedge tail, which you can throw a rattle in. Plus, then they have the line through design. I don't know. Can you see that? Personally, I like the way that this locks in place. It actually clicks into place better than that Bass Mafia bait does. Um, I freaking like this bait. I haven't fished it. I haven't seen the action in person myself. You can buy these at Discount Tackle for like, I don't know what they are, $11 or something like that. Um, and on top of that, they're a Laztec. What? They've got a harness system in them. Line through, top hook, a Laztec, wedge tail. The Molotron better be a bait that stays long term, because I know it's going to be a good one. In fact, that reminds me, I need to just buy more of them. Holy moly. Australia usually waits till 2 a.m. to call. Yo, tell your husband to turn that shiz off. Um, what in the world? If his day starts at 5 a.m., it should not start at midnight or 2 a.m. Or anything like that. I assume he's working for a international company and getting calls from people that are all around the world. That's unforgiving and not cool. That's rough. Caro, yes, it does. Um, Not only benefits, but it also does work to use a line through. You will lose substantially less fish on a line through than you will on a treble hook or on a fixed hook bait. So that is worth noting. Okay. Um, while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and do the line through on how about both of these baits? It doesn't make a difference to me, but since it came up earlier tonight, we will go ahead and do it on the Bass Mafia loaded swim bait just to see if I experience the same thing. Now, first of all, check this out. This is the Megabass whiteback shad. This is the Bass Mafia. I don't know what they call the color, but man, is it eerily similar. So I know Chris Aldane essentially copied most about the mag draft, but decided to make a line through version of it. I get why some people would be salty about that, but let's be honest, there's a bunch of people jumping in on that mag draft game. So take the hook out, take our line, which I'm just grabbing some 20-pound Seagar InvizX fluoro. We're going to run it through the nose. If I can find the nose. And we're going to thread this baby. Oh, I saw it in there. All right, so I guess angle kind of matters in how you're threading it. Yeah, not quite as easy as I would have thought. Um, because you are threading it through the middle of the bait. Like, is it through yet? I don't know. Where is it? Frank, are you caught up yet? Where's Frank? Interesting. I don't know where that went. Um, Sorry that I'm so silent. I'm gonna fish it the other way through. That freaking weirds me out. I think I have the same problem. And maybe it's user error, right? This is the first time I've gotten my hands on this bait. Maybe it needs a tutorial um, on how to properly run the line through this bait. You would think it shouldn't. Um, I don't know what's happening. Caro, he works for Eaton. Um, what's he eating? Just kidding. Um, Unbelievable. I was hoping this would be a lot more straightforward. Ha ha. Okay. I just had to turn my line once I had threaded it through the bait. Um, so we're in. We're in, guys. Wow. I guess the cavity inside the bait is just weird enough to where it kind of wants to get stuck on itself. But I figured it out. Frank says the internet connection was spotty, so I lost 3 or 4 minutes waiting for it to catch up. I actually started streaming again. Well, you're back, dude. I don't think you missed much, especially because I probably just spent 3 or 4 minutes trying to get the line through this dangerous swim bait. Um, so, Carol, here's what we're looking at. You run the line through the bait, tie it on the hook. I know you understand the concept of a line through. Um, but here's what we got. So we're tied, it's running through the nose of the bait, and it's tied to right inside here to the eye of the hook. So fishes like this, not much for the fish to see. And then when they bite, you set the hook and voila, out comes the hook. And here's what happens. You're fighting the fish here, and your bait is down here, not doing anything. It's just in the water, not getting any abuse. You're fighting the fish just here. They don't have the weight of the bait. They don't have the leverage of parts of the bait that they can throw around to shake off that hook. Um, a line through, not just in concept, but in practice, um, is a very good concept, very realistic, helps increase hookup ratio significantly. So um, that's why I was saying I think it's remarkable and exciting that now they're making a mag draft style bait, really a mag draft copy, but in a more sophisticated version, perhaps with a slightly different action, but that is built the same with a different hook and harness system. Um, in my opinion, that's enough to warrant it being a different bait. And also, it is flat on bottom. The mag draft is not. Okay. So the mag draft does not want to lay on the bottom. It will roll over. No matter how you put it. You just set that down, it wants to roll on its side. It's not a flat bait. I'm trying to lay it flat. Nope. However, this dangerous swim bait, you lay it flat. It is flat and it is weighted. So you can let this thing swim down to the bottom and sit there. You can swim it up and let it swim back down. You can pull it. You can swim it on bottom. You can swim it in the middle of the column. It's going to swim a little bit more stable because it's flat and the weight is distributed. I would think you can fish this a little bit faster than you could with a mag draft and it not blow out. I don't know about how much softer that plastic is. Looks like it's a little bit softer. So I would think you can fish it slower as well. I don't know that for certain, but I will let you guys know as soon as I do try it, which unfortunately will be in a month or two. But I'm excited about that. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and try rigging up one of the Molotrons as well, which are a little bit cheaper and more durable. So Molotron for the win. Again, 20-pound fluorocarbon. Doesn't matter. We might as well try it on the 4.5 inch since this is what is out right now. And probably has a smaller hole to thread this through. And very easily on the first try, that thing threads right through. So I do think that system is easier than what you get with the dangerous. I was talking up a big game saying that the dangerous was such an innovative concept, but I totally forgot that Z-Man makes this Molotron. And now they did just come out with it this past year as well. So I think both of the baits were released or talked about. The idea was released last year at ICAST. Neither one became readily available until just the last couple months. They are both new to the market for 2024, and I'm excited to have my hands on both of them. But technically, neither one can claim that they're the only one that does